I wasn't supposed to catch his attention. Hell, I wasn't supposed to be there at all. But when the most powerful man in Hollywood looks at you like you're the only person left on Earth, every plan you had to stay invisible goes up in smoke. The champagne burned my throat as I watched him across the rooftop. Ethan Vale, the kind of man tabloids worship and studios fear. His name alone could set the internet on fire. I'd seen him 1,000 times before on billboards, screens, magazine covers. But nothing prepared me for the way he looked in real life. That quiet danger, that devastating charm, and those eyes like he already knew every secret I'd ever tried to bury. I came to this party for one reason: to drink until I forgot how alone I felt in a city that chews people up and spits out their dreams. I didn't expect him to notice the guy standing by the bar, nursing cheap liquor in an expensive glass. Enjoying the view? His voice slid into my thoughts like smoke, deep and teasing. I turned, and there he was, close enough to smell the faint cologne on his skin. Expensive, restrained, intoxicating. Not particularly, I muttered, trying to sound bored. Too many people pretending to matter. He laughed softly, the sound rich, effortless, like it belonged to someone who'd never been told no. Then maybe you're the only real one here. Should have been a line. It was a line. But when his gaze lingered, something in me cracked, something I didn't even know was fragile. The rooftop was a cathedral of glass and gold, filled with laughter too loud to be genuine. People shimmered in designer gowns and tailored suits, holding their masks in place with practiced smiles. I didn't belong among them, not with my thrift store jacket and the exhaustion I wore like armor. I was nobody. At least that's what I kept telling myself. Until Ethan Vale decided otherwise. He leaned against the railing, watching me with that lazy confidence of someone who owned the sky. "You're not like them," he said, eyes scanning the crowd. "You don't need to be." "Good," I said flatly. "I'm not auditioning for anything." He smiled slow, knowing. "Maybe you should be." I looked away, focusing on the horizon where the sun bled into the city. "You don't know me." "Not yet," he said. "But I want to." It wasn't just the words. It was the way he said them, quiet, deliberate, like a promise he fully intended to keep. And that scared the hell out of me, because men like him didn't want. They took. And I was done being someone's escape, someone's fantasy, someone's maybe. But when Ethan Vale touched my wrist, gentle yet unyielding, something inside me betrayed my resolve. His thumb brushed against my pulse. "You're shaking," he whispered. "I'm cold," I lied. The night wasn't cold. Not with him standing that close. By midnight, the rooftop had thinned out, the influencers gone. The press retreated. Only the city lights remained, blinking like distant stars. Ethan stayed, somehow always within reach. "Why do you hate parties if you keep coming to them?" he asked, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I shrugged. "Because I keep hoping one of them will make me feel less empty." He went quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried something softer, almost human. "I know that feeling." I almost laughed. "You, Mr. Golden Boy of Hollywood? Don't tell me you're lonely, too." He smiled without humor. "You'd be surprised how many people love you until the cameras stop rolling." I looked at him, then really looked. The exhaustion beneath the perfection. The way his fingers tightened around the glass. The way his eyes flickered toward the city like he was searching for a way out. That's when I realized it. Beneath all the fame, he was just as lost as I was. And maybe that's why I didn't pull away when he stepped closer. The music had faded. The wind carried only the faint sounds of traffic below. Ethan's face was half lit by the warm glow of the city, and for a second, he didn't look like a movie star. He just looked real. "Come with me," he said quietly. I frowned. "To where?" "Anywhere but here." I wanted to say no. God, I should have said no. But there was something in his tone, not command, not arrogance, just a plea. So I followed him. We slipped through the back hallway, down a stairwell that smelled of rain and old concrete. He opened a door to a private balcony overlooking the entire city. No crowds, no cameras, just silence and distance. "Better?" he asked. I nodded. "Much." We stood there for a while, neither of us speaking. The city glowed below like a living thing. I could feel the warmth of him beside me, his presence almost magnetic. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "I don't usually chase people." I glanced at him, unsure if he was joking. He wasn't. "I don't want to be chased," I said. "I just want to be left alone." "I can't do that," he said simply. Something in his tone made my chest tighten. "You don't even know my name." He smiled faintly. "Then tell me." "Liam." He repeated it under his breath like a secret. "Liam." It sounded dangerous in his mouth. Later, when I tried to leave, he caught my wrist again, not to stop me, but to steady me. His eyes softened, the arrogance melting away. "I don't want tonight to be just another story," he said quietly. "Stay, just for a little while." And I did. We talked until the city went quiet. About nothing. About everything. About how loneliness feels louder when everyone's watching. When dawn broke, his hand brushed against mine, hesitant, searching. And for once I didn't pull away, because maybe two broken people don't fix each other. But sometimes they help each other breathe. The next morning felt like a dream I didn't remember agreeing to. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan Vale's penthouse, throwing gold over everything: the marble counters, the sleek furniture, the half-empty bottle of whiskey on the table. And me, still here. My head throbbed with the dull ache of too much truth and too little denial. I'd stayed. The night hadn't been what people might assume: no whirlwind of sheets and gasps, no reckless surrender. We just talked. But that somehow felt more dangerous than anything physical ever could. Because I'd seen him. And worse, he'd seen me. I was halfway through trying to find my shoes when his voice drifted from behind. "Leaving already?" I froze. Ethan was standing at the edge of the hallway, barefoot, wearing a plain gray t-shirt and sweatpants, somehow still looking like he'd walked off a photo shoot. His eyes were heavy with sleep, his hair slightly disheveled. He should have been ordinary, but nothing about him ever was. "I have work," I muttered, avoiding his gaze. "Doing what?" "Bartender." He smiled faintly. "Of course. You'd rather pour drinks for strangers than have breakfast with me." I finally looked up. "You don't even eat breakfast. You drink coffee and perfection." That made him laugh, low and genuine. Touché. I should have left right then. But instead, I found myself standing awkwardly in the living room, feeling his eyes on me like sunlight through glass. "Liam," he said after a beat, softer this time. "Last night wasn't just, don't," I cut in. "Don't make it into something." He frowned, as if the word something insulted him. "I don't play games." "That's funny," I said, "because your entire career is pretending to be someone else." For a second, silence hung between us, sharp, fragile. Then he exhaled slowly, crossing his arms. "You think I'm just another actor who wants a pretty distraction? I think you're used to people doing whatever you want because you're Ethan Vale." He stepped closer, the air between us tightening. "And you think you're the first person who's told me no? Maybe I'm the first who meant it." Something flickered in his eyes, then anger, maybe, or intrigue. Hard to tell with him. He smiled, slow and deliberate. "We'll see." 2 weeks passed. I tried to forget. Tried to convince myself that night had been a beautiful, stupid mistake. But forgetting Ethan Vale was like trying to unsee the sun once it's burned itself into your eyelids. He started showing up. Not at the penthouse or my apartment, he wasn't that obvious. But at the bar where I worked, tucked inside a dim, smoky lounge downtown. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then he started ordering the same drink I made him that first night: neat, single malt, no ice. He didn't even like whiskey. The third night he came, I finally snapped. "You're going to ruin your reputation if someone catches you here," I muttered, sliding his drink across the counter. He leaned in, voice low enough that only I could hear. "What reputation?" "The one that says I can't have what I want." I glared at him. "You can't have me." He tilted his head, eyes gleaming. "Funny. You keep saying that, but you never mean it." And damn him, he was right, because every time he walked in, my pulse betrayed me. It wasn't long before gossip started. Someone had taken a photo blurry, distant, but clear enough to show Ethan Vale at the lounge, talking to a bartender. Me. The tabloids didn't need much to spin a fantasy. Hollywood's golden star finds mystery man, the headlines screamed. The secret boyfriend of Ethan Vale? I saw my name trending for the first time in my life. It felt like being dissected alive. The next day, my manager fired me. "We don't want trouble," he said, not meeting my eyes. Trouble. That's all I'd ever been to people like him. I was still trying to process it when Ethan showed up again. This time at my apartment wearing sunglasses, a baseball cap, and guilt. "Don't say it," I warned before he could open his mouth. "I don't want your apology." He took off the sunglasses, his expression raw. "You didn't do anything wrong. But I'm the one who got burned. I'll fix it. You can't. Watch me." He stepped forward, close enough that I could see the storm brewing behind his calm. "You think I wanted this to happen? I didn't leak it. I've spent my whole career keeping people like you safe from the fallout." "People like me?" I said bitterly. "People I care about," he corrected quietly. That word hung in the air. Care. I wanted to believe him. God, part of me did. But the rest of me remembered how people like Ethan moved through the world. Always at the center, leaving orbiting chaos behind. The next few weeks were hell. Reporters staked out my building. Neighbors whispered. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from strangers, some cruel, some invasive, some pretending to be concerned. I deleted everything. Then one night, a black car pulled up outside my apartment. I didn't need to look twice. Ethan. He didn't say a word as I slid into the passenger seat. The city lights passed by in streaks of color. The silence between us felt heavier than sound. Finally, he parked in front of a secluded beach, Malibu, probably. The ocean stretched endlessly before us, silver beneath the moon. He turned off the engine. "I had to get you away from all that noise." I looked at him, exhausted. "You are the noise, Ethan." He flinched, just barely. "Maybe. But I'm also the only one who can make it stop." He reached out, his hand brushing mine. "Let me protect you." "Protect me?" I scoffed. "You can't even protect yourself from your own fame." He exhaled, the tension in his jaw softening. "You think I like being this?" he said quietly. "Every move I make gets turned into a headline. Every word becomes a weapon. I've built walls so high I can't even see the person I used to be." He looked at me then, eyes fierce and unguarded. "But when I'm with you, it's quiet." That broke something in me. I wanted to hate him, his power, his privilege, the chaos he carried. But beneath all that glitter, he was just human, flawed, fragile, lonely. So when he reached for me, I didn't stop him. His lips were warm, hesitant at first, not the practiced hunger of a celebrity used to being adored, but something real. When he pulled away, his forehead rested against mine. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. Couldn't. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt seen. The rest of that night blurred the crash of waves, the faint salt on his skin, the way his hand trembled against mine like he was afraid I'd disappear. And somewhere between the moonlight and the heartbeat against my chest, I realized how dangerous it was to need someone who lived under a spotlight. But I was already too far gone. The next morning, the world knew. Someone had followed us. Paparazzi photos, grainy but unmistakable, flooded the internet. Ethan Vale, Hollywood's most coveted bachelor, caught kissing a man on a moonlit beach. It was everywhere within hours. The studio issued a statement. His publicist went on a damage control spree. And me? I went offline. When I finally turned my phone back on, there was one message waiting. From Ethan Vale, meet me now. He was pacing when I arrived at his private villa in the hills, anger radiating off him in waves. "They think I'm doing this for attention," he snapped. "That I'm using you for publicity. My agent says I need to release a statement denying it." "Then do it," I said flatly. "You don't owe me anything." He stopped pacing, staring at me like I just insulted gravity. "That's not what I want." "Then what do you want, Ethan?" "Because I'm tired. I didn't sign up to be the scandal that ruins your career. He moved closer, his voice breaking. I want you. I don't care about the career, the image, any of it. He faltered, as if saying the words would make them too real. I shook my head. You say that now. But in a month, when the studios pull out, when the offers stop coming, when the fans turn, then I'll walk away from all of it. I laughed bitterly. You won't. But he looked at me, eyes raw, desperate. I already have. And before I could respond, he kissed me again, fierce, broken, certain. The fallout was immediate. Some fans defended him. Most didn't. His team scrambled to control the narrative, but the internet had already decided what it wanted to believe. He lost a major role, a multimillion-dollar film pulled his name from the credits. Sponsors withdrew. The golden image of Ethan Vale began to tarnish overnight. And all because of me. I tried to leave, packed a bag, called a cab. But when I reached the door, he was there. Don't, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You're losing everything. Maybe it's time I did. Ethan, he stepped closer, hands trembling as they cupped my face. You're the first thing in years that's felt real. Don't take that away from me. I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. So I stayed. For a while. But real love doesn't survive on chaos and cameras. Weeks later, I watched him crumble under the pressure. The constant calls, the threats, the headlines. He tried to pretend it didn't matter, but I saw it in his eyes, the exhaustion, the quiet regret. He was slipping back into the world that demanded perfection, and I couldn't follow him there. One night, after another long silence, I told him the truth. I can't be what they hate you for. He looked at me, voice shaking. Then what am I supposed to do? Live. On your terms. Not for them. Not for me. He swallowed hard. And you? I'll disappear. Maybe that's what I'm good at. I smiled sad. Final. And before he could stop me, I left. 6 months. That's how long it took for the world to forget. Not completely, the internet never forgets, but enough for the headlines to move on. For the chaos to fade into whispers. For Ethan Vale's name to stop trending alongside mine. I'd moved twice since then. Changed my number. Picked up shifts at a cafe in a small town 2 hours outside Los Angeles, where nobody cared who I'd been seen with. The ocean was still close enough to hear at night, but far enough to stop hurting. Every morning, I'd watch the sunrise over the water, coffee in hand, and tell myself I was finally free. Free from the noise. Free from him. But freedom, I learned, is just another word for empty. The first time I saw him again, it wasn't in person. It was on a screen in the cafe, a late-night talk show rerun. Muted but unmistakable. Ethan Vale sat under the bright studio lights, a little thinner, a little older, wearing a black suit that didn't quite hide the exhaustion behind his smile. The host leaned in, asking the question everyone had been waiting for. Even without sound, I knew what it was. He hesitated, looked down, then looked straight into the camera and smiled, soft, genuine, like he'd made peace with something. The subtitles scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Yeah, I was in love. I still am, I think. Sometimes you meet someone who reminds you who you were before the world told you who to be. I froze. The coffee in my hand went cold. He wasn't supposed to say that. He wasn't supposed to remember. But maybe some things refused to be erased. After that, his face started showing up again on movie posters, streaming ads, red carpets. The comeback no one thought possible. Critics called it mature, fearless. His best work yet. I should have been happy for him. And I was. Mostly. But sometimes, late at night, I'd catch myself wondering if he ever looked at the stars over some hotel balcony and thought of the boy who just wanted to drink in peace. I told myself not to care. Then one morning, I found an envelope slipped under the cafe door. No name. Just an embossed monogram EV. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single handwritten note. I never learned how to stop missing you. If you ever want to remember how it felt before the world went crazy, meet me. Same place. Tonight. 8 p.m. No signature. No address. But I didn't need one. I knew exactly where same place meant. The beach. It was almost exactly as I remembered, the air sharp with salt, the waves whispering secrets against the shore. He was already there when I arrived. Standing barefoot in the sand, the wind tugging at his hair, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets like a man trying to hold himself together. For a moment, I just watched him from a distance. He looked smaller somehow, not in stature, but in weight, like he'd finally put down something heavy. When he turned and saw me, he froze. Then he smiled. "Hey," he said softly, like the word might break. "Hey." Neither of us moved. The silence between us felt too fragile to touch. Finally, I said, "You shouldn't have come." He shrugged lightly. "You did." Fair point. For a long while, we just stood there, listening to the ocean. Then he spoke, voice low. "After you left, I thought I'd made the biggest mistake of my life." "You didn't," I said. "You survived." He laughed under his breath. "Barely." He looked at me, then really looked, and the years between us fell away. The exhaustion, the distance, the things unsaid. It was all still there, buried but breathing. "I kept waiting for you to call," he admitted. "To tell me you hated me, or missed me, or something. Anything. I didn't know what to say." "Say it now." I hesitated. The truth burned in my throat. "I missed you." His breath hitched. "Yeah," he murmured. "Me too." He took a step closer, then another, until I could see the faint scar on his lip, the one I'd kissed once in the dark. "I didn't mean for it to end like that," he said. "I thought walking away was mercy." "It was," I said. "You saved me from a war I wasn't ready to fight." "I didn't save anyone. I just got scared. That made me look up." "You?" He smiled sadly. "You think fame makes you fearless? It just gives you better hiding places." The wind whipped around us, carrying the sound of the waves. I wanted to say something, anything, but the lump in my throat made it impossible. So he kept talking, quieter now. "I lost everything I thought I needed," he said. "And when it was gone, I realized the only thing I wanted was the one I let go." My voice cracked. "You don't mean that." He stepped forward until there was barely a breath between us. "Say that again," while looking me in the eye. Couldn't, because he did mean it. Every word. He reached out then, fingers brushing mine, cautious, trembling. "I don't care about the cameras anymore," he said, "or the scripts, or the image, or what anyone thinks. I just want a life that feels real. And you were the only real thing I ever had." I closed my eyes, fighting the rush of emotions threatening to drown me. "It's not that simple," I whispered. "I know, but maybe it can be." He smiled faintly. "I'm not asking for forever, just a chance to start over. No red carpets, no headlines. Just you and me, and the sound of the ocean." I wanted to resist, to remind him of all the reasons it could never work. But his voice, steady, hopeful, familiar, made something inside me finally unclench. "Ethan." He waited. I took a shaky breath. "If I say yes, you don't get to disappear again." His eyes softened. "I won't. Promise me." "I promise." And this time I believed him. We walked along the shoreline as the sun began to set, talking about nothing and everything, the kind of quiet conversation that only happens between people who've already said all the hard things. He told me about the movie he'd just finished, one he produced himself, a story about loss and redemption. "It's called Still Here," he said with a small smile. "Guess who it's about?" I rolled my eyes. "Don't tell me you turned me into a metaphor." He laughed. "You're more than that. You're the reason I started writing again." That caught me off guard. "You write?" "Used to, before I forgot why I loved stories." I looked at him then, the golden light catching his profile, and for the first time in a long while, I saw not the movie star, not the scandal, but the man beneath it all. And maybe that was enough. When the sky turned violet, he stopped walking. "Do you remember the first night we met?" he asked. "How could I forget? You told me you came to that party to drink and escape your loneliness." I smiled faintly. "Yeah, sounds like me." He took my hand. "So tell me, do you still feel lonely?" I thought about it for a long moment. The ocean hissed softly against the sand, the world holding its breath. Then I shook my head. Not anymore. He smiled. That rare, unguarded smile I'd only ever seen when he forgot the world was watching. And for the first time since that rooftop party months ago, the ache in my chest eased. Later, as we sat together watching the stars bloom above the horizon, he said quietly, "You know, they'll talk again. They always do." "I know. You ready for that?" I looked at him, at the warmth in his eyes, the peace in his expression. "As long as you're next to me, they can say whatever they want." He reached for my hand, fingers intertwining with mine. "Then let's give them something worth talking about." I laughed softly, leaning my head against his shoulder. "You're impossible." "Maybe," he said, "but you're the only one who ever called me out and stayed." "I didn't stay," I corrected gently. "I came back." He smiled. "Even better." The tide crept closer, washing over our feet. The stars shimmered on the surface like tiny promises. In that moment, quiet, real, unguarded, I understood what he'd been trying to tell me all along. That love wasn't about the chaos or the headlines or the perfect ending. It was about showing up, again and again, even after everything burns. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay. And when Ethan Vale turned to kiss me beneath the California stars, the world finally went quiet. Months later, people would talk about his new film, how honest it felt, how raw, how heartbreakingly human. They'd call it a return to form, a triumph, a redefinition of the Hollywood hero. What they didn't know was that the last scene, two men walking barefoot along the beach, hand in hand, the city lights fading behind them, wasn't acting. It was us. And for the first time, we didn't care who was watching. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.